Good morning. Welcome to our um, series on supporting independent learners as part of our family toolkit. In this session, you will get more skills for building your at-home learning toolkit for supporting your children. I'm Jennifer DiMartino, and I'm the principal at Raleigh Hills K-8, and today I'm going to support you with this session about supporting your independent learners at home. So what we're going to learn today is what it takes to be an independent learner, some strategies for caregivers and for learners to increase independence, and then questions you can ask to support your child's independent learning at home. And when I say independent learning, I'm meaning the times in the day when they have an assignment to work on and they need to complete it, and maybe you have other tasks that you need to complete too. And so we're trying to increase the time that students are able to work on their tasks independently. So what are independent learners? They're learners who can set goals for their learning. Perhaps they're going to say, I'm going to complete this math assignment. And then they monitor their progress toward their goal. So they're able to know how they're learning and how they're making progress toward finishing an assignment or learning a new skill. They can decide if they are meeting their goals. They can determine if they're being successful or not. And when they get stuck, they use strategies to help them think of a way to keep going and complete the assignment. And then when they've tried all of their strategies, they ask for help and they advocate for themselves when their strategies aren't working. So I'm going to give you a few strategies that for your learners so that you can teach them these strategies that will help them to become more independent with their assignments. So the first one is using all of their resources. So perhaps the teacher gave a rubric or a handout that explains, and possibly they even gave a model or showed a model during a Zoom session that showed what a successful completed assignment would look like. And if they did do that, which they often do, does your child know where that is? Can they access it and can they use it to help them? So you could show them what resources has your teacher provided so that you can keep going with your learning. Perhaps there's a calendar in Seesaw or Canvas that could help. Maybe they're just lost about which assignments they're supposed to do. Well, can they go back to the calendar and find out what they're supposed to work on next? And then what other resources can help answer my questions? So teaching your child to think about what resources are already at their disposal will be very helpful. Another one is to remember that new learning is hard. And so it's important to be patient with yourself, and it's important to try and try again. So sometimes it's advantageous to take a break, but don't give up. Take a short break, maybe do a walk, some movement, few stretches, and then come back and try again. But perseverance is important. Perhaps you would want to set a timer. And there are many digital timers out there, or you could buy inexpensive sand timers at, I've seen them at the dollar store, other places. So make agreements to work a set amount of time before you try to get help, and give your best effort during that time. Maybe talk to your child about challenging himself or herself to increase the time that they work before they ask for help. This is what in the biz we call building up your stamina for working. So you wanna, your child is coming back from the summer. They haven't been maybe asked to do these kinds of things for a while, and we often find that in school. And so you can't just expect that they're gonna sit and do something independently for 20 minutes. So you work gradually up to that time. So you set a timer and you work towards that goal. It's important to think as a learner, how does this new learning connect to other things I've done? So if you're teaching your children to ask themselves that question, like, what have I learned before that can help me with this? What does this seem like? And it's almost, we like to teach children to say certain phrases, and one of those might be, I think this might be like. And if you get them started with the saying, I think this might be like, and then they start to think, what in the past have I learned that could help me with this? Because often yesterday's learning is connected to what you're going to do today. And then have a growth mindset. Encourage your children to learn phrases like, I don't know this yet, but I can learn it. And it starts to help them build up their belief in themselves and what they can accomplish. And then encourage risk taking. So it's okay to make mistakes. That's how we learn. You're not going to get it completely right on your first try. And so you go again and just build up that belief that I can learn this, because they can. And then another strategy to teach your children is when they've exhausted all of their other strategies, it's perfectly fine to go to the teacher's office hours to get help, or ask a buddy from the class. Who else is in my class that might know this or be able to help me with this? So those are some great strategies for learners to use when they get stuck. And if you go back and refer to this when your child is having trouble at home, you might find one that meets their needs on that day. So here's some strategies for caregivers. First, you might ask your student to teach you. So if they're having a rough time, just say, gosh, I never learned this in school. Could you teach me this part? Because often when they start talking through the material, they'll find that it leads to a breakthrough. Something will click in their brain. This can often be something that happens. So ask your child to teach you what they're learning about. Remember to chunk it up. Brains get tired with new learning. It really is draining. If you think back to a time when you tried to learn something new, it does take a lot of energy. And so often you need a break and possibly even a snack while you're learning new things. So remember to build in frequent break times for your child so that they aren't just sitting and being frustrated with the same thing over and over. So often a break can just shift your mindset. And then instead of providing the answer for your child, ask questions about the assignment. And often it's hard to think of those questions in the moment. So I've got on this next slide a few that you might try. So one are, did you read the directions? What did the directions tell you? You could ask them, what does a successful assignment look like? Because probably they've seen a model or an example somewhere that they can think back, oh yeah, it has a picture, it has 3 sentences, things like that. They'll know what a successful assignment looks like, most likely. And if they think through, then they can model theirs after an example they've seen. In math, sometimes, did you look over the examples? But it applies to any subject. Did you look over the examples? What did you learn when you looked at the examples? Did you ask a buddy? Often you might have connections that you could call, or students that your children will have the opportunity to work with in school, and maybe they could ask a child or a buddy. Then it's important to ask, how do you think you should get started? How do you think you should get started? And then they will try to describe to you their attack strategies. Well, I might break that number into tens, or I might just try getting my ideas on paper. What you're trying to get at is, how do they think they're going to start the assignment? Not necessarily what they think is going to be the positive outcome or the successful outcome, but what are they going to try just to get that first step going? Because as you know, or at least for me, when I'm trying to get up in the morning, if I put one foot out of the bed, I'm more likely to get it done than rather than if I just lay there. So, and then another one is, what have you tried? What have you already tried? So sometimes just describing what they've tried to you will help you think of a way that you might come at it from a different angle, and you can give them that suggestion. Now, often students will say, I don't know. And one brilliant teacher, who was my mentor teacher when I was learning to teach, she told me, yeah, I know you don't know, but what if you did know? What would you try then? Sometimes that's just enough to pop them out of that, and then you can keep going with your conversation. And now remember, Not all of these are going to work every time, and you're trying to build up that stamina for learning. But if you can focus in on the strategies for your children and the strategies for you, eventually you're going to create some independent learners. So here's some things to remember. It's important to be consistent. This won't happen overnight. But if you commit to it and you stick with the strategies, you will see progress over time to building up that stamina for learning and building up the stamina for independent learning. So remember to be patient. Your child's adapting to a completely new way of learning online. Usually the help was right there seconds away, and now it's not like that, especially if you're busy during the day trying to get your tasks done. And so be patient with them as they're trying to learn this new way of doing it. And remember, it's going to build up gradually over time. Also, following the same routine every day is a great way to build up their independence. So I hope this has been very helpful to you, and I will see you back here for another session of Family Toolkit.